I stepped into the garage, expecting Connor's surprised smile. Instead, I heard him on the phone, voice low and bitter. "Marriage is a complete nightmare, bro. I wake up every day regretting my decision." My heart stuttered. I froze halfway up the stairs, careful not to let the chips and salsa crash to the floor. For a moment, I thought it was a joke, an ugly prank between friends. But there was no laughter, only the steady, cruel certainty of his words. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. The weight of 3 years broke me in two. I backed out, silent as a shadow, and slipped downstairs. Food and beer abandoned on the counter. My hands shook as I unlocked the front door, pretending I'd never returned early. 5 days later, he'd call me 27 times in 1 hour, panicked, and I still hadn't told him I'd heard everything. I found myself crying in a stranger's parking lot, mascara trailing down my face. An elderly woman tapped on my window. I told her my dog died. It was the first lie of many that day. I texted the girls I'd checked into a hotel to catch up on work, then drove aimlessly, rewinding every happy memory through a new, brutal filter. Was that late-night pizza date him being romantic? Or just a bargain he could afford? The engraved sign at our entryway, "Where your story begins," mocked me from the kitchen table. Because our story had started as a transaction and wasn't unfolding the way I thought. By the next morning, I'd moved the first trickle of funds from our joint accounts into the secret bank account Connor didn't know existed. I changed passwords, added security questions, and told myself it wasn't wrong. It was survival. Over the next week, I became a quiet saboteur. When the bathroom sink leaked, I called the plumber without telling him, watching Connor's face as he calculated that $85 wasted was a small victory. I intentionally left printouts of our bank card withdrawals on my desk, then messily forgot them when I dashed out for errands. Sure enough, he flooded my phone with calls, 27 in 1 hour, breathless and frantic. I played it cool. My phone was in my purse, I said, and the crushing silence that followed told me he was unraveling. I dug deeper. During one gym run, I rifled through his nightstand, something I never imagined doing, and found a prepaid burner phone. One contact. Dozens of texts spoke of long-term plans and staying the course. One message, 3 months old. Just 2 more years and we're set. I photographed every screen, replaced everything exactly as I found it, then closed the drawer and walked away. My stomach turned at the betrayal, but I told myself to stay focused. Connor suggested a reconnection trip at my family's rustic lake cabin, spotty Wi-Fi and all. I agreed, secretly hopeful I'd catch more proof. Sure enough, I overheard him by the dock, complaining to whoever was on the other end that he was going crazy being trapped in the middle of nowhere. He promised to make it up later. Back at the cabin, I checked our accounts. Over $117,000 siphoned in business expenses that never returned. With each discovery, the pieces of his performance fell apart. When he proposed another vow renewal ceremony, so everyone important could be there, I smiled and said maybe next year. His relief was palpable. He thought he still had time. He didn't know I'd already met with the lawyer Loretta recommended. My prenup offered some protection, and fraud evidence could invalidate more. By the time he woke up the next morning, my attorney was drafting paperwork. The real showdown happened at my dad's home office. I invited Connor under the guise of a routine trust review meeting. Dad, our family financial advisor, and I sat around the desk. Dad asked, "Is there anything you'd like to tell us first?" Connor shook his head confidently, too confident. Then Dad laid out the folder. Printouts of secret withdrawals, screenshots of D-texts, and a transcript of the phone call I'd overheard. Connor's face went through every stage of shock and panic. He stammered that it was taken out of context. Mom, usually quiet, erupted, calling him a gold-digging parasite. By noon, he was escorted out with a 24-hour deadline to remove his belongings. Divorce papers followed that afternoon. In the weeks after, I cycled through grief, rage, and relief. I moved into my own apartment downtown, a space that reflected only me. The first night alone, I cried on my new couch. But by morning, I laughed out loud at a TikTok without apologizing. Therapy helped me see that trusting isn't weakness. Breaking that trust is. My relationship with my parents healed too. Dad admitted he'd underestimated how people might target our wealth, and Mom sent me daily check-ins and 3 blind date setups. Today, I'm just plain Natalie again. The divorce was finalized faster than average. 47 days in our county. I paid off my student loans and invested the rest. Connor tried to claim emotional distress, but his own words undid him. The recording of him calling me the money wife played back like a verdict. He walked away with less than he expected, and I'm left with a clear conscience and a renewed sense of self. I still have bad days. Sometimes I replay conversations, wondering how I missed the signs. But I'm rebuilding, piece by piece. Decorating my apartment, setting boundaries, rediscovering who I am outside of Connor's wife. The money wife is dead. Long live Natalie. And if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you loved, remember, sometimes the hardest transitions lead to the truest beginnings. That's the end of this Reddit story, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more entertaining Reddit stories.